What I'm about to show you will improve every single area of your life if you actually apply it. Not some areas, not most areas, all of them. And I don't say that lightly. Machiavelli would have loved this conversation because he understood something most people never grasp. Life doesn't reward intention, it rewards force correctly applied. If there were only one thing to focus on to make your life better in 2026, this would be it. Not motivation, not inspiration. Law. And law doesn't care how you feel. There are 3 principles you have to understand. 3. And they are not opinions. They are governing forces. Machiavelli spent his entire life observing how these laws played out in princes, generals, merchants, and empires. The men who rose understood them. The men who fell violated them. The first principle is inertia. An object at rest remains at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. In plain language, nothing moves until something moves it. Power does not drift toward you. Change does not wander into your life by accident. Stagnation is the natural state. Most men don't fail because they choose ruin. They fail because they never choose force. They wait, they observe, they hesitate. Machiavelli warned that fortune favors the bold, not because bold men are luckier, but because fortune is female and must be dominated by action. If you are motionless, life does not negotiate with you. It leaves you where you are. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes you are the object at rest. Other times, you are the outside force. And most of the time, you are both. The problem is not which one you are. The problem is when you don't know which one you're being. The moment you become aware of that distinction, you gain leverage. The moment you remain unaware, you become a pawn. The second principle is energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It only changes form. Machiavelli didn't use modern physics language, but he understood the outcome. Every day, your life force is being converted into something. You are always turning your energy into results. Always. Look at your life if you want proof. You have turned years of your life into your income level. You've turned years into your relationships. You've turned years into your body. You've turned years into your reputation. Men like Jacob Fugger, the richest financier of Renaissance Europe, didn't outwork everyone. Many men worked harder. What separated him was how intentionally he converted energy into position. He turned effort into leverage, leverage into dependence, and dependence into power. That is energy properly directed. If you don't decide what your energy becomes, entropy will decide for you. And that brings us to the third principle, entropy. Anything left to itself moves toward disorder. This is the most dangerous law because it operates silently. You do not need to intend to fail. You only need to neglect improvement. Kingdoms collapse this way. Bodies decay this way. Men drift this way. Machiavelli watched entire states rot, not because of rebellion, but because rulers assumed stability would maintain itself. If 2025 looked suspiciously like 2024, and 2024 looked like 2023, that's not bad luck. That's entropy doing its job. And here's the part most people resist. Entropy does not require effort. You don't have to try to become weaker, poorer, or less respected. All you have to do is stop applying pressure in the right direction. Every time you read a book, you are allowing an outside force to act on you. Every time you learn a skill, you apply force. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you introduce motion. But if you do not predetermine which forces shape you, other forces will happily do it for you. Institutions, habits, weak environments, lesser men. Machiavelli was brutally clear about this. If you do not control the forces acting upon you, they will control you. That is not pessimism, that is realism. So here is the tension I want you to sit with. Are you the object at rest, waiting to be moved, or are you the force that moves your own life? Because in 2026, you will be one or the other. Neutral does not exist. Stillness is not safety. Stillness is decay. In the next part, we're going to destroy one of the most dangerous lies men tell themselves, that life just happens to them. And once that illusion collapses, responsibility and power returns to where it belongs. Before we move on, pause for a moment. Reflect honestly. In the last year, where did inertia dominate your life? Comment one word that names it: stuck, drifting, comfortable, or whatever is true for you. Naming it locks awareness in place. And if you're serious about not being ruled by entropy anymore, subscribe and join a growing community of men focused on discipline, leverage, and long-term power. Not motivation, not hype, but principles that actually work. So now that you understand inertia, energy, and entropy, here's where most people get uncomfortable. Because once you see these laws, you lose your favorite hiding place. The excuse that life is just happening to you. Machiavelli had no patience for that mindset. He observed again and again that men who blamed fortune stayed small, while men who treated fortune as something to be managed rose quickly. Here's the distinction you have to understand if you want 2026 to be different. There are contributing factors, and there are determining factors. Contributing factors are things outside of you. They affect you, but they do not define you. Economic cycles, family background, bad timing, other people's decisions. Those are contributing factors. Determining factors are internal. They are your decisions, your discipline, your persistence, your willingness to apply pressure longer than others are comfortable with. Most men confuse the two. Something external happens, and they immediately promote it to a determining factor. Machiavelli would say that's how men voluntarily surrender power. Because the moment you decide that something outside you determines your outcome, you excuse yourself from action. And once action stops, inertia and entropy take over. Here's an example that makes this clear. Let's say someone crashes into your car. That event was not caused by you. That's a contributing factor. But what happens next? How quickly you recover? How you respond financially, emotionally, strategically? That part is determined by you. If you elevate the accident to a determining factor, you get to feel like a victim. You get to explain why progress stalled. You get an excuse. But you also give up control. Machiavelli understood that principles can overpower other principles. Gravity is real, but lift beats gravity. Fear is real, but preparation beats fear. Chaos is real, but structure beats chaos. If you apply a stronger principle, you override a weaker one. That's why men who understand systems keep winning even when conditions aren't at ideal. Most people don't fail because life is unfair. They fail because they stop applying determining factors consistently. They wait for conditions to improve instead of overpowering conditions with discipline. They negotiate with reality instead of forcing it to respond. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on circumstances staying favorable. Fortune changes, allies shift, markets move. The only stable advantage is internal control. Decision, tenacity, the refusal to accept delay as denial. You see this clearly in business. Two people see the same obstacle. One says, "There's no way." The other says, "There must be a way." The first man submits to contributing factors. The second becomes a determining factor, and over time, the gap between them grows so wide it looks like luck, even though it isn't. Energy comes back into play here. High-energy individuals repel excuses naturally. Low-energy individuals collect them. That's why language matters. When someone says, "I'm fine, I'm surviving," or "not too bad," they're signaling low energy. Machiavelli would recognize this instantly. Power is attracted to vitality. Opportunity flows toward motion. Nothing of value moves toward stagnation. Positive thinking doesn't magically solve problems. Machiavelli wasn't naive, but high energy amplifies everything you touch. It sharpens decisions, it attracts collaborators, it accelerates recovery. Negative energy does the opposite. No high-level result flows to a low-energy source. Ever. This is why men who dominate outcomes refuse to rehearse weakness out loud. They don't narrate limitations. They don't worship obstacles. They apply force, observe feedback, and adjust. That's it. No drama, no self-pity. And here's the part most people miss. Once you realize you are both the object and the fore, you can intervene deliberately. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What principle do I apply next?" That question alone separates men who repeat the same year forever from men who compound forward. This is exactly why Machiavelli wrote that men shape their destiny by preparation long before the moment arrives. When the storm hits, it's already too late to build foundations. The determining factor must already be in place. In the next part, we're going to apply this belief system to real-life categories: money, relationships, learning, and growth. And once you see how neglect quietly destroys each one, you'll never look at doing nothing the same way again. Before we move on, reflect honestly. Think of one situation in your life where you blamed circumstances instead of applying force. Comment one short phrase, something like "my timing," "the market," or "other people." Awareness is the first act of control. Now, this is where everything we've talked about stops being philosophical and starts becoming unavoidable. Because once you accept that inertia, energy, and entropy govern life, you can no longer pretend that nothing is a neutral choice. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He saw that decline rarely came from dramatic mistakes. It came from silence, delay, comfort, and the slow withdrawal of pressure. Here is the belief system that changes everything. For any area of your life to get better, it requires high energy and deliberate intention. For any area of your life to get worse, it requires neither. It only requires neglect. Sit with that for a second. Improvement is designed. Decay is automatic. If you fully absorb this, you start seeing your life differently. Nothing is staying the same. Everything is either improving or deteriorating. Comfort is not stability. Comfort is entropy in disguise. Machiavelli warned rulers that peace without vigilance was more dangerous than open war. The same is true for your personal life. So now we apply the laws. We move through the domains the same way the original logic does, in reverse order of importance. Not because the earlier ones matter less, but because unresolved pressure at the base poisons everything above it. Start with finances. Not because money is the most important thing in life, but because unsolved money problems dominate attention. Machiavelli observed that men burdened by survival concerns cannot think strategically. They react. They don't plan. They compromise principles for relief. Here's the hard truth. If you are not intentionally using energy today to become richer, you are unintentionally becoming poorer. There is no standing still. Inflation alone guarantees that. Time guarantees it. Entropy guarantees it. So the question isn't whether you want to be wealthy someday. The question is whether today moved you 1 inch closer or 1 inch farther away. Men who understand power think in leverage. Cash flow, systems, assets that work when they don't. This is not modern thinking. Phoenician merchants, Florentine bankers, and Dutch traders understood recurring income centuries ago. They built structures that produced value daily, whether they showed up or not. That's leverage. And leverage is simply energy multiplied through structure. Lifestyle comes next. Lifestyle is not consumption. Lifestyle is freedom of choice. When your income is predictable and recurring, decisions stop being financial and start being strategic. Machiavelli wrote that dependence is the true loss of freedom. When money controls your choices, it becomes your master. When it obeys your strategy, it becomes your servant. Then there is legacy. Legacy is long-term thinking in a short-term world. It is the refusal to let each generation restart from zero. Powerful families throughout history understood this. They didn't just earn money, they preserved it, positioned it, and transmitted it. That is not greed, that is foresight. Now, friendships. People underestimate this domain because it doesn't feel transactional. That's exactly why it matters. No one builds power alone. Even the most dominant figures in history relied on alliances, confidants, and networks. Machiavelli warned princes never to isolate themselves because isolation breeds blindness. Relationships decay without energy. Long-term friendships require maintenance. Developing relationships require investment. New relationships require initiative. If you are not intentionally strengthening your relationships, they are weakening. Not dramatically, quietly. And one day you look around and realize your network is thinner than it should be. Next is focus, learning, skill, mental sharpness. Entropy applies to the mind as much as it does to money or muscle. If you are not learning something new, you are losing something old. Memory erodes, edge dulls, curiosity fades. The world moves on without you. Machiavelli was a relentless student of human nature, history, and power. He read constantly because he knew ignorance was vulnerability. Discovery comes first. You uncover principles you didn't know. Development follows. You practice them until they become usable. Then, deployment. You apply them under pressure. That cycle never ends. Every day presents the same choice. Am I willing to apply energy to improvement, or am I willing to accept decline by default? Watching instead of reading, consuming instead of building, scrolling instead of sharpening. These are not harmless habits. They are votes cast for entropy. And now you should feel the pressure building, because once you see this pattern across money, relationships, and focus, you realize it applies everywhere. Which means the most personal domains are next. Body, family, identity. And this is where excuses collapse completely. That's where we're going next. Before we move on, pause and reflect. Which area have you been neglecting while telling yourself things were fine? Comment one word: money, friends, or focus. That single word is a decision to see clearly. Now we arrive at the domains where excuses die the fastest. Because here, you can't outsource responsibility. You can't blame markets, timing, or other people. Machiavelli would say, this is where men reveal who they really are, not who they claim to be. Let's talk about family. Everyone says they want a better family life. Very few people are willing to apply energy and intention consistently enough to make it happen. Families do not improve because of love alone. Love without structure decays. Love without priority erodes. Order must come first. If you have a spouse, that relationship is the axis. Every single day, that relationship is moving in one of two directions. Closer to unity or closer to fracture. There is no neutral day. Machiavelli warned that alliances neglected eventually become liabilities. Marriage is no different. If you are not intentionally strengthening it, entropy is weakening it for you. Children come next, not above the spouse, never above the spouse. Strong families throughout history understood hierarchy. Disorder in priorities produces disorder in outcomes. Extended family matters, but never at the expense of the core. Power flows from order, always has. Now, fitness. This is where the principle becomes undeniable. One day you realize something that changes everything. You are either getting stronger today, or you are getting weaker today. And you don't have to decide to get weaker. You only have to skip the decision to get stronger. Machiavelli understood bodies as instruments of will. A weak body limits force. A disciplined body amplifies it. Strength is not vanity. Strength is capacity. And capacity determines how much pressure you can apply before breaking. Nutrition comes first. What you put into your body determines how much energy you can deploy. Eat like someone who wants power, not like someone seeking comfort. Movement comes next. Motion is maintenance. Motion is insurance against decay, and rest completes the cycle. Recovery is not laziness, it is strategy. There are two kinds of pain: short-term, intentional, structured pain that removes weakness, or long-term, unintentional pain that invades when weakness accumulates. Machiavelli would tell you to choose the pain you control before the pain you don't arrives. And now, the final domain, the most important one: belief, inner alignment. Call it faith, call it worldview, call it internal order. If this domain decays, everything else eventually follows. A man without internal alignment becomes reactive. He drifts, he compromises, he rationalizes. If you are not intentionally saturating your mind with higher principles, lower impulses will fill the space. If you are not directing your inner life, external noise will dominate it. This is not mystical, it is mechanical. Machiavelli observed that men who lacked inner discipline were easy to manipulate, easy to provoke, easy to defeat. And here's the final synthesis. For any area of your life to get better, it requires high energy and deliberate intention. For any area to get worse, it requires only neglect, which means if you truly grasp this, transformation stops being mysterious. It becomes inevitable. If you apply this standard, better by design or worse by default, to your money, your relationships, your learning, your body, your family, and your inner life, it becomes impossible for your life not to improve. Not slowly, not vaguely, structurally. That is how you transform yourself completely in 20 Ps. Not by motivation, not by inspiration, by obeying laws that do not negotiate with excuses. The coming year will not be fair. It will not wait. It will not care how hard your past was or how good your intentions sounded. 26 will reward only one thing: men who apply force consistently and punish men who drift. Understand this clearly. If you do not design who you become next year, entropy will design it for you. If you do not choose discipline, comfort will choose you. If you do not impose structure on your life, chaos will happily do it for you. There is no middle ground. There is no pause button. Every day you either harden into a sharper, more capable version of yourself, or you quietly rot while telling yourself you're fine. This is the year you stop hoping things change and start deciding they must. This is the year you stop negotiating with weakness. This is the year you stop waiting for clarity and become the man who creates it through action. No one is coming to save you. No moment is coming that suddenly makes it easier. The work does not get lighter. You get stronger. That is the deal. Accept it or be ruled by men who already have. Before you leave, make the decision real, not in your head, out loud, in writing. Comment 2 words that mark the line you're drawing: by design, stronger today, or no neglect. Lock it in. And if you're serious about transforming 2026 instead of just surviving it, subscribe and join a growing community of men who are done drifting, done lying to themselves, and committed to discipline, leverage, and long-term power.